Hello, 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 and welcome to Elevate Your Wellbeing Contagious Care. And today we're going to be looking at something that's really vital for all of us. We would wish that it wasn't vital in terms of needing these skills, but it's something that we do all need, just living in our society, and especially through COVID times, and especially through any challenging time that you might be facing. We're going to look at the CPR of our own mental health. So please put in the chat box how you are feeling today regarding your mental health. Be honest, because honesty is the best way of actually being able to, once we identify something, we're halfway there in working out a roadmap to be able to navigate through it. So please, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your well-being today, overall, at least? On a scale of 1 to 10, just put it in the chat box, in the comments box. So please say hi or love heart or like or something, so I know who I'm speaking with today. So just as CPR is physically life-saving, we need some life-saving work with our mental well-being. Just tell me if you agree with that. I just want to know that I'm on and all is good. So just put yes there if you agree with that, that your physical energy that you put into your physical well-being is the energy you put into your mental well-being just as important. There's been a time, this has never been a time, I don't think, there never has been a time like now to deal with our mental well-being. So, what do you agree with? Do you put it as a priority, your mental well-being, just as much as your physical well-being? You know, I've witnessed the need for this so much in a global way through the counselling that I'm doing at the moment and the workshops, and just as I hear people speak, just how vital this is. And not just through the pandemic we're experiencing, but also in our beloved community over the last month. Sadly, we've had 5 suicides, and most of them, 4 of them, have been young people. So we need to really look for each of us in this contagious care group. How are we going to manage our own well-being, and how can we support others in their well-being? And we're focusing on the area of mental well-being. So if I can be of any help in supporting you and developing ongoing CPR as a way of life for yourself, which I see as vital, the way of life, rather than just the emergency situation, this is what I'm going to be focusing on today. And in a following session, I'll be looking at what we can do specifically to help others, to allow us to be able to notice people more and what's going on for them, and to be able to ask the right questions if things aren't okay for them. So please let me know what you're feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 right now. Let's take a look at what we value more. Just put in the chat box whether you value your just by, if we take an honest look at how we spend our time, that will tell us what we value more. Do you tend to value your physical well-being more or your mental well-being more? There's no right or wrong answers about this. It's just becoming aware of how we utilize our time and what we do with it in terms of our general well-being. So just type in what you're aware of or doing already to fulfill your well-being health. What attributes do you think are most important in being able to maintain your mental health? Just put in the chat box now I'm just not sure if anyone's here because I'm not hearing from you in the chat box. So please let me know. What attributes do you think are important regarding maintaining your mental health? I've come up with 3, just as I was focusing on this CPR thing, and the 3 that I've come up with are connection, perseverance, and resilience. CPR. Do you have these things in your toolbox? Do you have them in your CPR first aid kit? Hello, Linda. Welcome. Lovely to see you there. Thanks for waving. And please let me know, others who are here, what attributes. I've just chosen 3 for today's talk: CPR, connection, perseverance, and resilience. And we're going to look at these 3. So what other attributes do you think are important to develop your well-being mentally? So connection. Let's look at the first one of CPR, connection. And I'm including community in this as well, because connection builds community. You know, John and I, when we lived in a Zulu community in South Africa back in 1984, it was a black township just near Soweto. And in the Zulu language, there's a beautiful word called Ubuntu. It even just sounds so soft and gentle and connecting. It means a person is a person through other persons. We are people because of the connection with others. Ubuntu means I am because we are. I am because we are. So what does that phrase say to you about connection and community? Just let me know in the comments box, what does that phrase say to you about connection and community? The human race is one. There's no you, there's no me. There is only we. That's how the Zulu people experience life, and they've come up with this word Ubuntu, which is used all the time. It's the connection of humanity, the essential human virtues of compassion and humanity brings us together. I remember listening to a TED talk, and the lady was saying, if every single person on this planet heard there was an earthquake in Haiti, and each person gave $1 to Haiti, Haiti would be restored in one day. That's the true action of the meaning of Ubuntu. We are all connected. And I'm reminded of that verse in the Bible that says, be joyful with those who are joyful and weep with those who weep. We can be one with our people. And the reason why I chose the seagulls again today as behind me was something that John and I gave to each other for our 1 year first anniversary. And they're connected. Now, it doesn't just have to be a couple, okay? For our 10th anniversary, we gave each other this. I'm quite into symbolism if you don't know me already. Can't help but speaking in metaphors. So, 5 dolphins representing community. It just so happens that there's 5 in our family, and I love that, just with them all swimming together. And it's just a symbol for us, for John and me, and just connecting as a family. But who is your tribe? Who is your community? So you might be living on your own, but you can connect with your tribe and make sure that happens so you can all be together supporting one another. Or you might live in a household of friends. The point is, how do we reach out so that we're swimming as a group, so that nobody feels on their own? It's interesting, my father loved ducks, and he didn't give them to me. They were passed down to me when Mum and Dad passed. But these beautiful wooden ducks, again, a group, sticking together. They need to stick together to feel safe and support one another and protect one another. And I don't know about you, if you've noticed the hundreds and hundreds and sometimes almost 1,000 seagulls swarming together. It's called, I've gone blank on the name. I can't believe it because I just love it every time it happens. It'll come to me. Murmuration. It's called a murmuration, where a swarm of seagulls or ducks or any flying, any birds that will just join together to unite as they flock together in the sky to protect each other in a storm. Or if some of them are diving in to feed, they're still all together supporting one another. So how do we support each other? Put in the chat box, in the comments box, how you feel connected. What do you do to feel connected with others? What do you want to do differently? I'm going to give you just 5 quick tips on how we can connect more. You know, if you're putting things in the chat box, for some reason I can't see it, and so I apologize if you're putting things in the chat box, but maybe you're not, and I just can't see it. I'm not sure what's happening, but please, if you can respond, that's wonderful. Then I know I'm not just talking to a phone on my own. Okay, so tips for developing connection. Initiate the first move. Don't stand around waiting for others to make the first move. If you were with me back when I was 9 years old, we just moved from a small town in Tasmania, in Devonport, to the big smoke of Sydney, with my dad being transferred with his work. And I was incredibly shy. I know those who know me won't believe that. Like, put a laughter if you're laughing now, like you can't believe it. But it's true. I was so incredibly shy when I was young. And when we first moved to Sydney, a suburb of Sydney, Carlton South Primary School I went to, and the comments are going in the chat box, Alison. Thank you for letting me know. For some reason, I cannot see them. So thanks, Alison. Good on you for letting me know. Keep putting them in. I will respond to them later. And for some reason, it's not working today. But keep putting them in and I'll respond to you later. Thanks for letting me know. Appreciate it. Okay, so keep rolling them in. So I can remember when I first moved to this school, I was wearing a tartan skirt and you, Alison, too, as my sister, for at least a month because for some reason the uniforms had been delayed in being ordered. And I felt so daggy in this tartan school uniform. And no one approached me in the playground. It was I was so shy. So why would people want to approach me when I looked like I didn't know what to say or didn't know what to do? And I can just remember being a really shy little girl. And after about 3 months, I had this transformational experience in that playground. And I felt like, I'm sure I wasn't mature enough to do my own self-talk at that time, but it was something coming into my brain, which I'm so grateful for. It was like a voice speaking to myself saying, you're not going to survive like this, Heather. Being shy won't do you any favors. being scared of initiating contact is not working for you. So try to move forward towards people and approach them even though they're not coming to you. And I can remember as a 9-year-old having to take that step. And now in adulthood, we all encounter different experiences of that same thing, I'm sure. Put down if you still encounter that. If you've moved to a neighborhood, for example, and no, we tend to welcome people when people move in, like, you know, homemade bread or just something, a cake, just to welcome people into the neighborhood. But not everybody does that. And we can't expect people to do the same as what we just might do ourselves. So we all encounter this at different times. And I have a friend who's just moved recently, beautiful, friendly family. But nobody has stopped and welcomed them into the neighborhood either. And it's just really hard, understandably, with COVID right at the moment when you move, because you're not meeting people with the normal groups that are there. So initiating in a new environment is more of a challenge. But if we can just do that, because you will be doing a favor to others and you'll be doing a great favor to yourself as well. So remember, pluck up the courage to connect. Connection, community. It takes courage to start with, especially if we are shy. Remember that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule that I talked about in many sessions ago to avoid procrastination. Just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it when that good thought comes to your mind. So another tip, learn from others who have gone before you. This helps connection. I remember reading in a book by Julia Samuel, her book called This Too Shall Pass. And she talks about when she lost her job, she decided to talk to other people to find out how they managed when their lives had gone wrong. Because through COVID, it's not our own fault that we're losing a job. It's the situation that's caused this. And she spoke to so many people who had lost their jobs, who had suffered bereavements, and she found that really helpful. Speaking with people who'd been dumped or betrayed, and what she discovered was that each of them had a few things in common. For some, the people who got through these losses were people who did exercise regularly, or gardening, or playing football, or drums, or reading poetry, or riding motorbikes, or decorating a house, climbing a mountain, or singing in a choir. She referred to all of these things. And in my book, Elevate Your Wellbeing, you'll find those 10 different chapters written by experts in their own field of wellbeing that really call out to us to be practicing meditation or mindfulness. These are the things that will help you get through difficult crises. But you know what Julia Samuel found? The common thread in all the conversations that she had in interviewing people, for all of them, they had friends. We cannot cope with life's blows without good friends. Finding a tribe who will be constructive with you, not destructive, not pulling you down. We really need those communities. So one more thing is, a tip is sharing how things are going for you. Again, that takes courage. Be real, be honest with trusted friends. And then another point is, as I've talked about, finding your tribe. This is your tribe. I can't believe how this group has grown. As I've said to you before, I just thought it would go for a couple of months of COVID, and now we're to about 6 months of this group with over 400 members, and it's just been really humbling and encouraging seeing this group grow. This is your tribe. This is my tribe. And I just want to thank you again for all your encouraging comments. because it lifts me up to keep going and persevere, which is our next thing in the CPR, perseverance. There's been times when I haven't felt like going on, and that's why I'm late, by the way, in going on, because I just struggle to press the button sometimes. It's hard work for me. You might think it's easy because you might think this comes natural, but it still doesn't. It's hard work. So finding your tribe, I've seen the value of continuing this. So that's why I'm doing it, even though I only anticipated doing it for a couple of months at the most. But it's been worthwhile, and I value all your comments and affirmations, and that makes the tribe mutual. We're all here together connecting, particularly for people in Victoria. We're connecting inside when you can't go outside, and we're connecting not just inside our homes, but inside our hearts. All of us, we're created to have that sense of belonging, that need to belong with each other. So how can we help each other in that if we're finding people are left out? So sometimes it's going out of your comfort zone into the courage zone to connect, to build your tribe, which will make life more constructive and safe for you in the long term. And I'm sure in our community, all parents are speaking to their teenagers about this. Don't allow yourself to feel isolated. Don't, when you first see those signs of depression, to actually talk about it, be honest with how things are going for you, and get that tribe. So the support that comes from connection and community can never be overestimated. And that support is life-giving. How are you maintaining that life-giving support for you? Please put it in the comments section, even though I can't see it. I promise I'll respond to you afterwards. How are you maintaining that life-giving support? How are you reaching out to others to receive it? And how are you reaching out to others to give it? I remember when I was going through the cancer journey and I was in the midst of chemo, and I'd walk down the hill to go swimming on this beautiful long beach, walk along the beach and go swimming. But I could never go on my own because I literally had no energy to get up the really steep hill. For those of you in Kiama, it's Brown Street, so you know the steep hill. And through chemo, I just didn't have the energy to walk up that hill. My lungs couldn't, my whole body couldn't do it. So the kids and John would come down with me, or I'd have a friend. And after the beautiful time in the ocean, they would literally put their hand, and sometimes I had 3 kids all at once, putting their hand on my back and pushing me up the hill. Literally pushing me up because my body couldn't do it on my own. And it was like a choo-choo train. And it must look so weird. But more often than not, it takes shared exertion to bring healing or to help someone through a crisis. What have you experienced in this area? How can you help others who are hurting in our community right now? Please put that in the chat box. Or if you're not in a community that's hurting right now, how have you been able to help people in the past? Jot it down, because the sum total of all your ideas is more than the number of people in this group, because you can brainstorm off those ideas. So how can you help others who are hurting in your community right now? How have you in the past, when you have experienced people hurting, how have you reached out to them? Or when you've been hurting, how have they reached out to you? So the next one on our CPR list after connection is perseverance. Okay, so perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. Now remember, if you had read the book as a child, Frodo Baggins, the Hobbit. Remember, he was a small hobbit who'd never been far from home, and he was tasked with carrying out a volatile object across the entire known world. And with the help of a few friends, remember, connection, community, with the help of his friends and his own great determination, he persisted through many dangers and setbacks. Now, if Frodo had been a wizard or if he'd had the power to fly, his journey wouldn't have required any grit. It's grit or perseverance that helps us overcome our shortcomings or disadvantages and allows us to succeed. So remember, when I was back in primary school, I had to step over into the courage zone to actually make contact with people because they weren't making contact with me because I look so daggy, and that's what kids are like. Don't respond to people who aren't exciting or interesting. So let's look at how we can all do this, because I had to have grit at that time. I had to have it. I couldn't do it without perseverance and stepping out of my comfort zone. If you want a definition of grit, here are two: courage and resolve, strength of character, and another one is mental toughness and courage. Same. Can you remember a time when you developed perseverance for a particular thing you had to go through? Can you remember a time when you demonstrated grit? Please share it in the chat box, because that's going to help others in our community. The people who are it's endless, the people who are demonstrating perseverance right now. All our prime ministers, for example, I pity them each night and pray for them when I see them on the news, because I'm talking about all the prime ministers of different countries. No, Australia doesn't have more than one. But it's, the perseverance, the struggle, and the lack of sleep they must be getting through all these COVID changes that has to be done for the benefit of everyone, how different it is, and just the, dissension that it's causing as well at the moment with Victoria and other states, and just the difficulty of all of that. There's a lot of grit and perseverance that goes with whatever role we have through this COVID season. It's students who have to study hard to pass each test, doing it on their own rather than having their cohort of students to encourage them face to face. It's the average athletes who, it's the good athletes in COVID times who've missed out on the Olympics, which they've trained for. That would be tough. Or it's average athletes at any time or season who become superstars after years and years of practice. It's in small business owners who are doing it tough right now. They start with nothing. They build a profitable business over time, but now they've got to use grit again with choices they have to make. Or it's in a tired parent who does her best every single day through COVID with homeschooling and challenges. It's just endless. People having to use grit, perseverance through these times. I remember I used to work for an organisation called Life Care, and there were groups running for kids who'd been experiencing domestic violence. And the group was called Kids with Grit. Great name, because they were disadvantaged with their upbringing, seeing their parents being violent or being violated by the other. And when the government ran out of funding for these programs, a very creative and intelligent man, David Kerr, who spoke last week, I told you he was a colleague of mine, and he set up this bike ride called Ride to the Top to raise money so that these programs could continue. And I remember being scared stiff about cycling 650 kilometres from Sydney to Mount Kosciuszko over a 6-day period. I just only had taken up cycling recently, like the year or year and a half before, and taken it up in a more serious way. And the physicality of cycling from Sydney to Kosciuszko scared the living daylights out of me. I mean, that was one thing, the physicality of it, but the other thing that scared the living daylights out of me more was that I was the only female. And so the week before the ride, I was having recurring nightmares that I was going to hold all these guys up. You know, they're up at top of Charlotte's Pass just waiting for me for hours. And so, you know, the recurring nightmares really showed how nervous I was about the whole experience. But you know what? I wanted to do this because it was raising money to keep these programs going that was so, so important. These were kids with grit like you've never known before, with what they'd gone through. And I was just so passionate about that cause that I gritted my own teeth and did that ride to break the cycle of domestic violence, to help these kids see another way of living instead of repeating the same destructive patterns that they'd experienced, sadly, watching their parents. The least that I could do was ride 650 kilometres to help them out. So it didn't matter what pain I was going through. It was so minimal compared to theirs. But it was interesting. The funny thing with me being so scared and having to get out of my comfort zone and show some grit myself was I thought I'd make it easy on myself and pray for another female. I thought, God, surely you'll bring another female along so I don't have to be the only female in this group. Not that I'm worried about men at all, but I just knew they'd be so much faster than me. And so I prayed for another female, but it wasn't and God provided that female, but the day before the ride, but it wasn't the female I was praying for. She was the Australian champion, and she was just doing this ride as a warm-up for the Australasian Pan-Pacific Games, for riding, for cycling. And so here she was, this national racing champion, and me. So, you know, that made it even, I was thinking the night before, oh my gosh, you know, yes, I've got a female, that's great, but not my level. So anyway, the funny thing was, I enjoyed that ride immensely, and I went on to do another 5. And it was the perseverance, the training that I had to do for it. I ended up loving the ride, most of it. And so put in your chat box a story of grit or perseverance or determination that you have had to exercise, that you have had to pull out of your CPR kit, the P for perseverance, for persistence. We've all got stories like this, and it's really important. Just jot it down, because you can share your perseverance with others, and then they can be encouraged so much by that. You know, Angela Duckworth, a University of Pennsylvania psychologist, recently defined grit as a child's perseverance and passion for long-term goals. Many studies have shown that this type of attitude is a better indicator of future earnings or happiness and success than either IQ or talent. Okay, so we don't necessarily have to have IQ or talent. It's the perseverance that gets you there. So you will reach your goals if you're willing to put the work in to get there. It's that 1% that 99% of the other population don't bother doing that helps you become successful by taking on the challenge and doing that thing that no one else is prepared to do. So yes, it's under difficult circumstances, but the amount of grit that you have, the courage, perseverance, and determination is a better indicator of your ultimate results than any talent you might have or any IQ. So remember that research. Signs of perseverance. You keep on keeping on. You don't give up. We have perseverance when we steadfastly pursue a task in spite of obstacles or distractions. And that adds a layer of passion to it. If you have perseverance, you probably feel like once you've decided to do something, you're on a mission. you will just go for it to complete it, and you won't stop no matter what happens. For example, me with these video sessions. You know, this last month I've had huge obstacles. My own health, the deep sadness with my friend's son suiciding, and something else that I'm not at liberty to share. But keep on keeping on. Never give up if you know you're on a right pathway. Number 2, another sign of perseverance is you enjoy self-improvement. And that's all of you guys, because you're here in a group, sharing it with your friends, in a group that elevates your well-being and helps you to care for yourself and to care for others contagiously. So grit is seen in people who have ambition, yes, but not necessarily for the purpose of gaining fame or fortune. Rather, it's in a desire to better themselves, which is what you're doing by being here, to better yourselves and to better your circumstances to obtain your personal goals. Gritty people push themselves to grow despite natural setbacks. We're all going to have setbacks. But these people don't worry too much about perfection. Instead, they strive for excellence, or simply want to become better than they were before. Are you that type of person? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you assess you in terms of your perseverance right now? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you want to be? Because that's your goal, and if you persevere, you will get there. Another characteristic of perseverance is having a strong will. If you have a lot of willpower or self-control, gritty people can control their emotions in the face of adversity, or at least handle their emotions well enough so that they don't derail their plans on the way. If we have perseverance, we can set our goals for ourselves and steadfastly pursue them without hovering, without wavering or staying too far from the plan. So what are some tips for perseverance? Some people will naturally have perseverance in their character throughout the course of their lives, especially if they were born into difficult circumstances. And you strive to better yourself in spite of those circumstances. I think that's what happened for me in my childhood, with being shy and knowing that I needed to overcome that. And there was another part of that story, but I don't think I'll just quickly share it. Like, because of that struggle in my childhood, I learned, because you see, I was moved from Tasmania to Sydney, and I was the top in the top third of the third class in Tasmania. So they automatically put me in the top class of all the third classes in Sydney. But Tasmania's curriculum was a year behind New South Wales. So I was way behind. I didn't understand half the stuff I was learning. And they just assumed, you know, because I was the top of the third year there in Tassie, that they just didn't assess me at all. And so I was really struggling. And if it wasn't for my teacher, who spent every single lunch hour, she was a persevering character, every single lunch hour catching me up with all the work and putting the two gifted and talented girls who always did their work so much quicker than the rest of the class, they helped me out in their spare time when they'd finished their work. And so if it wasn't for her creativity, her perseverance, and her hope in me through my difficult circumstances, I wouldn't be where I am today, because of her incredible persistence, spending every lunch hour between August, when we moved, till December, in helping me step up. And then she staggered me, I staggered her, and because I came third in that top class by the end of the year. But it wasn't through my abilities. It was about my teacher's perseverance and having hope and faith in my abilities, even though I wasn't in the right circumstances at that time. So often it's because of a childhood experience that makes us persevere. Okay, yes, I do have that strength of persevering. But if you feel like you might be lacking with perseverance and you want to develop some, here are some tips. Take any step towards a passion or interest. Grit and determination are usually present when you're pursuing a goal that you feel is really worth pursuing. You won't be as likely to power through tough times if you're not at all interested or invested in what you're doing. So start by taking any step that you can towards something that you're genuinely interested in doing or improving. Just put in the chat box, what are those things for you right now? What are the things that you would love to do, haven't still had a chance to do it through COVID times, that you want to develop a passion in? Put it in the chat box now. You'll be helping others by doing that as well. Number 2 tip is attempt something that feels difficult. Perseverance and grit doesn't come from doing things that are easy, okay? You'll develop grit by pushing yourself to achieve in the face of difficulty. It doesn't matter how others perceive the difficulty level of what it is that you're doing. It only matters how much you're pushing yourself and how difficult it is for you. So doing something outside your comfort zone is a quick way to develop and grow as a person. Can you put in the chat box a time when you moved out of your comfort zone and into the courage zone? So it's like this. The comfort zone is small, and sometimes we need to be there for safety reasons, okay? To stay in our comfort zone and just be kind to ourselves. Fair enough. But the comfort zone, if we stay there, only doing the things that you enjoy doing, or relaxation to the hilt, which is what you might have done with COVID to start with, thinking, oh wow, I can really just relax, read books, watch TV. But you become a bit of a boring person if you just do that for the entire season of COVID. So what are the things that you can do to get out of your comfort zone, doing the things you usually do, which is the small zone, to expand your horizons and move into this courage zone, to try the things you've never tried before, to be brave, take opportunities, serve in a higher way for the community, tackle the things that you might be afraid of, or the things that are unexplored territory for you. Do the things that are difficult or risk-taking or adventurous. So they're just some things that you might want to think about. What defines your courage zone? How can you step into that? What courageous thing might you do today as a result of this session to bring growth? Because that's the outcome of moving out of your comfort zone and into the courage zone. You will be more successful in whatever you're doing, and you will see the results. So what areas do you want to be more courageous with to expand your horizons? Jot it down so you can be more accountable with that. And the last one, resilience. Wow. Okay, CPR, resilience, is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. So the signs of resilience. I love the expression, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Okay, I love that expression. Probably that was one of my first early quotes as a child, and I just loved it. A sign of resilience is turning lemons into lemonade. Resilient people are hardy people because they persist through difficult circumstances. They can look at potential disasters and see opportunities for them. So what opportunity are you seeing for yourself through this COVID season to get out into your growth zone or your opportunity zone or your courage zone? Hardy people are those who rebuild their home after a tornado rips it apart. They may be just as upset as somebody who, without resilience or grit, they may be just as upset as that person, but they literally grit their teeth and get on with the task and push forward. They use the disaster as an opportunity to build something better. Another sign of resilience is you survive tough challenges. It's getting back on the horse again once you've fallen. It's overcoming tough adversity by adapting and without giving up on your goals. And psychologists often study resilience in children who come from at-risk environments or circumstances, and those who are born into luxury generally don't need grit to thrive. They don't develop grit so much. But those who are born into adversity may need it simply to survive. They have that resilience because they've gone through tough times. Resilience can also be found in those who lived through life chronic illnesses or life-changing medical diagnoses and never gave up on their dreams, or even in those who have always just felt like the world was just a little bit against them, but they kept trying. So it doesn't have to be a shocking adversity. It can be just like, chronically things are going wrong, but you just keep going. You get back on the horse every time you've fallen. So quickly, tips for resilience. I'm going to give you 3 tips. Don't quit at the first sign of trouble. Often when we take a new hobby up or start working towards a new goal, things go pretty well until we suddenly are faced with a problem and we get stuck. It can feel as if the problem is a test designed to determine whether we're really and truly interested in pursuing that goal. So a person with resilience will keep working with the mindset that this problem is just a part of the overall process. Look at Thomas Edison with the light. Look at so many people, who have designed things, invented things that have had 1,000 failures before they finally got there. Number 2 tip, re-attempt something that you gave up on. The real spirit of resilience is striving towards something in spite of the fact that you have a hard hill to climb. That's grit. It takes a lot of courage and determination to keep trying when you're already failed. But when you do succeed, the rewards are even greater because you know what that failure was like and your perseverance has paid off. Even if you never succeed at a particular battle, you can learn from what you did accomplish in that process. So most of the scientific detail, the information that we have about grit and perseverance and resilience comes from Angela Duckworth's studies, and it shows that people who are willing to tirelessly work through challenges, and that's what we have with COVID right now, we have challenges. The people, us who are willing to work through the challenges despite adversity, are much more likely to reach higher achievement, so much so that it outperforms personality and IQ as a predictor of future happiness and success. So I guess what I'm saying is, hang in there, folks. Hang in there, friends. Parents, encourage your teenagers and young adults that what they're feeling right now, because it is so tough for young people. We've talked about the important, so much government attention has been on the elderly people who are going through COVID, but we really need to be mindful of our young ones who have got a whole life ahead of them and can feel despair at the things that they don't think are going to work out for them through this process. So if we can encourage our young ones as we encourage ourselves to actually have that grit and determination and to speak up and be connected and to persevere up the hard road. So while it's true that grit may never, it may be naturally forged in hardships in life, what we have experienced, I want to also encourage you that it can be cultivated by those who wish to just improve themselves. And that's you, and that's me, and that's why we're here. So have hope. Have the CPR of your first aid kit. Have it right beside you so you can give to yourself and share with others. So if this has been helpful for you today, I want to encourage you to not only have hope through your CPR kit for mental health, but to share it just with one other person that you think might benefit this. And if you can't decide, then share it with all your friends, because if you're getting benefit from it, other people will too. So I encourage you to share, especially today. I've got the Elevate Your Wellbeing course coming up in October. It's all up there on our group page. And remember, there's 50% off, $50 off, because I just want to give that to you as a gift, and $150 off if you do both programs, the Freedom Through Forgiveness and the Elevate Your Wellbeing. So hook into something that supports you. It might not be those programs I've just mentioned, but there'll be something, some group of connection, some way that you can move forward and develop the perseverance and resilience that you've always wanted to have. So until next time, be life-giving, be courageous, and let your life shine.